Based on what you know and what you understand for what we saw through Bahrain, just going on a hunch, who do you think is going to outperform the other this season? Who do you think has the edge? The Max Red Bull versus the McLaren?
Yeah, well, the way I see it, the Red Bull actually very quick at the start of stints, but the pace starts to drop noticeably after some laps. Basically, they admittedly is not currently the fastest. I actually think McLaren is slightly faster.
Pace. Now let's talk about one lap pace. Verstappen was behind Norris and Piastri for one lap pace, but during those runs, he had an extra 60 kg of fuel in his tank when he was making those runs. That 60 kg makes a lot of difference for one lap and over a race. I'm hearing that 60 kg could be, I don't know if I've got this right, it could be 2 seconds a lap. I don't believe Verstappen has a 2 second per lap advantage, but that 60 kg has to account for at least a tenth to a 2/10 of a second. So that's the number one thing. He was running with 60 kgs, and also he was running with harder tires. McLaren was using the soft compounds. Verstappen was using the hard tires. So when you add all of that, I think the one lap pace clearly should go to Verstappen, even though he was behind because of the weight. Now, when we look at the race pace, Piastri beat Verstappen by 7 seconds. But we have to remember, during that race pace, during those long extended laps, Verstappen was at 60 kgs higher fuel. Okay. And I get the sense that he might have been slightly sandbagging, but I think that 7 second difference was based on tire deg. But we have to remember, even if his cars were dropping off with tire deg, especially since he downshifts coming into corners, especially slow speed corners, so that downshifting puts a lot of wear on the tires. But we have to remember that in that long race pace, he was still 60 kgs heavier. Even so, we know, McLaren has better tire deg, better this and that, but that 60 kgs is a big number, because what he was doing was ultra marathon runs, like he did two Grand Prix races on a day, so he was doing ultra runs. So to compare him to McLaren when they were doing race pace on much lighter fuel and on mainly using softer tires, it's going to cut everything, so that even if McLaren is ahead in race pace, it's very, very marginal. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, testing times can be misleading at times. We may not necessarily read so much into it, in spite of the fact that McLaren may look slightly.
I'm not against their testing times. I'm just saying that you have to handicap the testing time for that fuel. Yeah.
Okay, because if you look at Red Bull, they don't appear to use the softest tires at the best track conditions. Now, that suggests to be that they may have been hiding some performance. You never know. But while McLaren looks strong on one lap, Red Bull's true qualifying pace may be closer than the figures show. So basically, I think Red Bull may still be optimizing their setups rather than trying to make headlines during the testing. So they're closer than the figures suggest.
Yeah, and here's what I'm going to argue: when it's time to get into these free practices and everything else, Verstappen's going to, and I'll agree, the McLaren car is superior to the Red Bull car, maybe a little bit in one lap. He's going to start clipping the front wing again. He's going to start taking more maximum speed into slow speed corners and rotating and bringing that 2/10 of a second that only he can bring, and making the car peakier. And also, it's going to be at the same weight as these cars. And I just get the feeling that he hasn't pushed it, especially on the second day, because we know the first Bahrain, he was hitting 344 kilometers on the straights. And he was playing around, entering the corners at 256, entering corner 10 at 254, 256 kilometers per hour. Then all of a sudden, he wasn't doing that during the second set of Bahrain tests. I think the first set of Bahrain tests, he was doing long runs and he was showing people this is what this car can do. He wasn't creating record laps, but what he was doing, choosing parts of the laps in which he shows you the extreme speed of that car, 344 on the straights, because it has better clipping. It doesn't clip as much as any other car. Nobody else got 344 kilometers per hour in either test. But a lot of people are saying, oh, well, he could do that for a little bit, but he can't maintain that. I think during that first Bahrain, he was testing that was when everybody said he had the benchmark engine. And he was doing metronomic laps within 0.01 seconds of each other. Even when McLaren was having faster times, there was more of a differential between their laps. I think like there was point where he was metronomic. And when you see that type of metronomic, it shows you that he's controlling the pace he wants to go at, and he can repeat it. So I think he was sandbagging a little bit, and I think that they're in for a rude awakening when they get to the season. But I'm going to say, let's just assume that McLaren is even or slightly better over one lap than Verstappen. By the time and we know that Verstappen and Red Bull are the masters of setup. By the time they get a setup, they're going to find an extreme setup for that car in which to push it over one lap, so that to make sure that they get the qualifying time. And we have to remember, any times that you compare him with McLaren, he had 60 kgs more weight. Then if he comes out ahead of them in qualifying, I still think Mercedes and Ferrari will be the kings of qualifying. So I'm going to predict that Verstappen is going to be coming third more times than not for qualifying, but sometimes it'll be Norris. I'm not going to put Piastri in the level with him. Norris and Verstappen will be fighting for P3 all year, but I get the sense that Verstappen is going to out-qualify him because, number one, he's more clutch. He doesn't get nervous in qualifying. Sometimes Norris does, and I think that he's going to be able, especially on high-speed tracks or on tracks which have low, tight corners, he's going to be technically so sophisticated that he's going to out-qualify Norris. And also because these tires are narrower, which means they have less grip, he's going to be able to push it to the limit, beyond the limit, more than Norris does, because Norris is afraid of pushing it beyond. He goes exactly at the limit. So I'm going to give – now, when we look at race pace, McLaren has probably slightly better race pace because of tire deck, and they probably have better they do not probably. They have, because of their anti-dive, they have better stability and ride quality through the corners. So I think it's going to be a close one between, when they go head-to-head with McLaren and Red Bull, it's going to be close. But I think, especially based on the way Verstappen drove last year when he had a car that wasn't at the same level as McLaren, I think he's going to still get the better of Norris. And also Norris is going to lose some points from Piastri. So I think that Verstappen is going to come third this year, and Norris is going to come fourth. The Ferrari and the Red Bull, Leclerc and George Russell and Antonelli. Oh, I forgot about Antonelli, but one of those two. So let's say Russell. Russell's probably going to come first next year. Russell or Leclerc. That's my prediction. And then Verstappen and will probably come third, only because what's his name is going to lose a lot of points. Antonelli. I don't know how far. I don't think Antonelli is a good enough driver to be coming second in the drivers next year. He might.
So he could.
But not to confuse our viewers, let's just talk about the battle between McLaren and Red Bull. I'm going to give the edge to Verstappen in beating out Norris in the drivers. I'm not saying what place they're going to come, but Verstappen will come out ahead of him just a little bit because he doesn't have a teammate to take points from him, and he has a 0.2 second advantage, which I think is enough to put him ahead of Norris. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, strategically, I would give him the edge over Norris as well. He might know.
But I think we can both agree that the McLaren car is probably overall still slightly a better quality.
Yes, pace, in terms of pace. But there are two very important factors here because of the regulation changes that mark the Red Bull car head and shoulders above McLaren. That is deployment and electric energy usage and clipping, running out of electric energy. These areas, Red Bull are clearly ahead of McLaren because, I mean, their deployment is very strong. We saw in Bahrain that the efficiency of their power, electric energy deployment is very strong. They maintain electrical boost deeper into the straights. And it looks as if they've optimized the balance of power 50-50, well split without any issues. So I think the clear advantage goes to Red Bull in deployment. Also in clipping, which is ability to ensure that you don't run out of electric energy. There's more
on the straight.
Yes, on the straights. There's more visible clipping at the end of Bahrain's main straight in McLaren. And there's a slight loss of top end speed also in the straights. So again, here Red Bull excels, better energy harvesting and release cycles. Their clipping is minimized and they maintain stronger end of straight performance. So these two factors cannot be ignored. They are very important, especially when
And if Verstappen's hitting those high speeds coming into the corners, right?
Yeah.
That's going to carry through the corners to help him harvest energy and have more on the straights. The only issue, though, is that Verstappen, downshifting is not going to hurt his deployment. It's going to hurt the tires. So Verstappen is going to harvest energy better, regardless of whose car harvests it better. Because when you're hitting the corners at a higher speed, you can carry the momentum without having to accelerate through the corners, which is going to drain the battery. Exactly. But like you said, the payoff is going to be in tire dig. So what Verstappen's going to have to do is qualify ahead of them and keep them behind him in dirty air.
Once they can solve that thermal issue, I think that degradation would improve. They have thermal issues.
Yeah, and they don't have any big issues. Red Bull doesn't have any big issues.
They don't have any big issues.
All right, man. We won our PhD for pseudo-technical engineering.
Yes, pseudo-technical.
Not that it's pseudo, not real, pseudo. All right, take it out of all.
It's been another brilliant Formula One show with me comparing Red Bull and McLaren across a number of indices as we prepare for the first race of the season. And from Mustafa and myself, we'll be back again during the week.
All right, thanks for turning around before I start talking at the